Ready, Barry?
Ready anytime you are.
We'll call the meeting to order of the Wright County Planning Commission for December 12th. First thing on the agenda is action on the November 7th, 2024 minutes. Has everyone had the chance to look it over? And if so, is there any additions or corrections? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way? Motion carries. Thank you. Number one on the agenda tonight is the Knife River Corporation, North Central. Anyone pertaining to that, do you want to come to the podium, please, and give your name for the record, and we will get started.
Hi, my name is John Henry. I'm the general manager for the aggregate division from Central Minnesota, from Knife River.
All right, thank you. Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this matter was continued from the last meeting for a site inspection. So that inspection was conducted by the commission, so that's really all I have to add. You guys have been to the site. They're looking for 5 years. I believe the township in this case has recommended 3 years. So there's a motion ready for you in the staff report if you're looking at approval.
All right, thank you, Barry. Do you have anything you would like to add?
I didn't attend the site visit. We had two representatives, Holly Renault actually, and the field supervisor, Mason Goddage. From what I heard, it went fine, and basically what we had talked about, they had told you. So unless there's other questions on the site, as you can see on the map there, the green area is what we considered restored. The rest of the brown area is what we're using for operations. It was pretty clear cut.
Yep. And then, just for clarification, there is still material to the south there of where the trees are? I mean,
Yeah,
there's
correct.
still material there that you
Correct.
plan on taking?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Nobody here's got anything right away. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this matter? If so, can you come up, please, and give your name for the record? Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? If there's no one from the public, then we will bring it back up here, and if you want to come back to the podium, John. And does anybody from the board have any questions, clarifications, concerns? Dan?
Mr. Chair, I do have one concern, and this would be on the residential side of the property. When we drove through on the site inspection through the residences back there, there was a definite ATV trail going back in there. And I know that it's posted, the property's posted. My question is, because I've actually had to deal with this on my own property, is there something you can do to try to deter that? Just that one, so that, because it's an obvious area right off of that cul-de-sac or dead end.
Okay, so totally agree with you, and there's more than one. There's, yeah, you can see the one on the northeast side there.
Yep.
There's some coming from the south. I don't know what to do anymore, to be honest. I started working with this pit 20 years ago and caught some younger guys in there with ATVs. And I put up a 4-wire barbed wire fence, put up the legal no trespassing sign. I came back the next day and they had it cut and they were running the sign over. So, I mean, we're constantly putting more signs up and more. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't want them in there, that's for sure. If there's any suggestions, I'll take them.
Well, the only thing I was thinking of is that there's a pit in South Haven, or up by South Haven, and they have a quite large sign, maybe a 4x8. You know which one I'm thinking of?
I'm not sure.
It's north of 55, the pit right on the corner
In
there.
the corner?
Yep.
And Adele Rock.
And I was just wondering if there's something that could be put up that states whose property this is and, you know, and very easy to see. And that,
I mean, we can do that. I have done that before.
yeah,
I think everybody in the neighborhood knows whose pit it is, especially the ones that are using it. I would bet they're from the neighborhood. Everyone that I've ever caught in there are from the neighborhood.
yeah.
If you want us to put a sign up, we can do that. I honestly, if you want me to be honest with you, I don't think it's gonna. After the experience I had here, you know, the one to the south is really, I don't know how old this map is actually, the aerial, but the one to the south is more prominent and more worn down. That's where I put
Way in
that.
the corner there, you mean?
Yeah, right, straight south. There's
Okay.
two of them actually coming out straight south.
Yeah,
That's where I had put that sign up on the fence because I went right in front of the trail and it was 24 hours. They took a wire cutter and cut it all. And it said knife forever, it said no trespassing. If you're asking me to do that, I will certainly do that.
I don't know what the answer is here. I'm always concerned about residences on the back, and it's not the people that are actually making the trails through there. It's that it opens it up, and then, you know, kids think it's a walkway, and they go in there too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just trying to talk through how that would be rectified, but maybe it can't be rectified unless there's,
I think from our standpoint, there really isn't a condition we can levy because that doesn't, that's a personal trespass issue between
Yeah.
the property owner and the neighboring residents. I don't want to put a condition on it and then have an issue that comes up and now they're violating a condition under no fault of their own because of bad actors that don't own the pit.
no, I agree.
I definitely understand the concern, but I don't think there's anything we can do as a commission that would be of any benefit to the pit operator from that regard.
I have a request. And I don't know if Wright County has this division, but you mentioned South Haven. We own two down by South Haven. Excuse me. And we used to have a horrible problem. I mean, there was, at one time we came in there on the weekend, there was 40, 50 four-wheelers. And they created a four-wheeler division. The sheriff did. And we worked with them and they cleaned it up. There's very few in there now because they start writing citations. So I don't know for sure if Wright County has that, but it might be something that you would have some influence over because it works.
Actually, that probably would have been the Wright County Sheriff's Department.
South Haven would have been, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Is that still in? Oh, I thought that was in. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
No,
Yeah,
no,
they're-
that's
they'd
Meeker.
be
The
the
one
one
we're in. We're
just
south
west
of. We're
of
south of
Sylvia.
South Haven. So it was actually, I think.
County Road 2, is that
Yeah.
Thurber's property?
Yep.
One of them, and then the other ones would be just east and south of that,
Yeah.
back in kind of.
So that still is. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
South, Sylvia and Pickerel.
So we had the same problems during the same years, and we had some down by south of Kingston, some in Wright County, and I don't know if they both had those divisions, but it really helped. It really helped. So,
Okay.
I'd say contact the Sheriff's Department and see what you can do.
yeah,
Well, and I agree with Barry that it's a property owner issue, and I just wanted to bring it up and see if there was, you know, some way to get some action on it to try to curtail that. So, okay,
whether it's in there or not, I'm gonna put some signs up.
okay, thank you.
Any other concerns, comments? Pat?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think it's probably worth talking about the length that we intend to go. The request is 5. Township was at 3. Township cared enough to come and actually give us a representative to talk to us. I'm myself sort of inclined to abide by what they're asking for on it.
I don't think that's necessarily out of line because that is something we do follow. We normally a 3. For the amount of materials that's there, do you think you'll be exhausting it in 3? Or can exhaust it?
It's really hard for me to give you an honest answer. You know, we're guessing 100 to 200,000 ton left there.
Okay.
That's a rough number. It might be done in 3. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, with us coming back here. So
Okay.
if you want to do 3 years, that's fine.
Okay.
We have a good relationship with the township, so, I mean, that's fine.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Dan?
To approve an interim use permit for continued mining and processing of aggregate materials in accord with the narrative plan and discussion from the meeting with the following conditions. Number 1, mining shall be completed by December 1st, 2027. Stockpiling of materials may remain until December 31st, 2028. Reclamation shall be completed by July 1, 2029. This permit is granted solely to Knife River Corporation and shall be null and void upon transfer of the property or change in primary operator. A financial guarantee for reclamation shall be filed with the county for $75,000, 15 acres times $5,000.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion here? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries.
I have a question. So the way that was worded, so I'm estimating we could get it done in 3 years. The way that was stated, we have to have it done in 3 years?
The mining portion of it, and then the piles, well, you have one more year for the piles, anything you pile up, and then it's got to be reclaimed the next year,
So
29.
what happens if the economy tanks and I can't move that material? We just lose it?
And you
No,
come back in, you come back in.
Okay.
Come back
okay.
in and we talk about
So
it.
it's not a definite, okay.
Yep, no,
It's,
that's,
it's
I
a
misunderstood.
definite, but you have to reapply.
It's the same way you've kept it open for
Yeah.
40 years on the back of 5-year, 3-year permits.
Okay.
we'll see you again in 3 to 4 years.
Well, we're going to try to move the material, so.
All right.
All right,
you.
thank you.
Yep. Number 2 on the agenda tonight is Jonathan Kepler. You want to come up and give your name for the record?
Hello, my name is Jonathan Kapler.
Okay, Gary, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is similar to the first request. It was continued from the last meeting for a site inspection. This is a request for a 2-lot platted subdivision. Property is already zoned R1. We do have the preliminary plat document that shows that both lots would meet the minimum requirements and have accessible type 1 septic sites.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, not really.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this matter? Anyone from the public? If not, we'll bring it back up here. And we did do a site inspection on it. I guess one of the questions we had at the site inspection is the existing building. It goes with, what is it, lot 2?
Correct, the southern lot.
Yeah, and that's a lot that's gonna be sold, and the other lot is the one that the Sportsman's Park is gonna be keeping.
Correct.
So I mean, the question is why is the building being sold with the lot and not staying with the Sportsman's Club?
Right. You might think it would be the other way around.
Correct.
But the goal of the Sportsman's Club is to reduce their tax burden and reduce their acreage overall. And, we were going back and forth with the building. It's like, you want it? We don't need it. You can have it, that kind of stuff. And they didn't want it. And, so we're trying to get it then.
Okay, just wanted to ask those questions as to what the reasoning was. Is there any other questions? Concerns? Otherwise, it's relatively a straightforward application. Sewer sites are there. Everything meets standards. So somebody willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve a conditional use permit for a 2-lot platted subdivision in accord with the record of these hearings and the preliminary plat of Hart Pond Place completed by Auto Associates dated 10/10/2024, project number 240447 with the following conditions. 1, prior to the filing of the final plat, the park dedication shall be paid in cash along with the other fees as noted on the plat checklist. And B, a title opinion is submitted and accepted by the county attorney. 2, no construction may commence until the county board has approved the final plat. 3, access permits, if required, must be obtained from the township prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 4, livestock is prohibited except as allowed by the Wright County Code of Ordinances.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3 on the agenda is big rig companies. Pertaining to that, you want to come to the podium, please, give your name, and we will get started.
My name is Cole Bryan. I'm the operating partner of Big Rig Companies.
Okay, Barry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this one has been continued a number of times. However, we have not had any of the intro and public comment at this point. So I will give this more of a thorough intro than the previous two. So this property is a newly subdivided property. The commission approved an unplatted subdivision in August to create this 24.13 acre lot. It is zoned B2 is what the property zoning is for it. If the commission remembers, there was also a rezoning as part of this because the lot as this one lays out wasn't entirely in the B district, nor was what would have been parcel A to the west. And so there was a rezoning that extended the B district. Some of it was already B, but it extended the B a little further. And then the subdivision in August created what the applicants are proposing, or where the applicants are proposing this use, which is truck sales with diesel service and repair. You have the site plan up in front of you, so this is what they're looking at. Narrative has been provided. They're looking at a 16,330 square foot, 2-story building. They're gonna be doing, they are a licensed dealer of pre-owned commercial equipment, trucks and semi-trailers. Total operation will cover about 313,000 square feet of impervious surface. Their operation will have up to 15 employees and run Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturday by appointment. They have done drainage plans. They have a SWIP plan that will be submitted to the MPCA provided they get approval here. They'll have septic system and holding tanks where needed. There has been a notice of decision on the wetland delineation. We did receive a response from the Wright County Soil and Water Conservation District that the proposal does appear to have both direct and potentially indirect wetland impacts. And so before they could do the work that's shown on this plan, they would have to get approval from from the Soil and Water for wetland replacement. We did receive approval from the township since the last meeting, which provided one of 2 turnaround designs are used on 148th Street, and request the commission condition any approval on those being built at the same time site prep is being done on the property. We did receive, actually it says 1 comment in the staff report. It's actually 2 separate comments from the same person in writing. Those comments and some alternative design information has been submitted, and it's included in your staff report packet. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you, Barry. Anything you would like to add to that?
I think that sums it up pretty well.
Okay, okay. And I'll open it up to the public, and if anybody's in the public would like to comment on this, I would like to hold all comments to about 4 minutes. So is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Gentleman over there, if you want to just have a seat. Cole, you just want to have a seat, and then we'll go through public comment.
Hi, my name is Mark O'Brien. I am the one that submitted the comments on the alternative design drawings. I understand the, zoning and for this property, and it meets the zoning requirements. As a resident on Devitt, we have tried to keep truck traffic off 148th for various reasons, not the least of which You go down 148th, you hit Divot, you get down to 144th, and many times trucks get stuck there and also damage property when they try to turn, especially in the wintertime. So we've worked with the township and have had this road essentially blocked off to truck traffic, or at least signage. And I guess I'm disappointed that we're going down this route versus the developer of this property working with the county and the township to access off of 8, which we've talked about. And from an understanding, even where 148th is in relationship to the freeway entrance is not ideal. And we're gonna put more truck traffic down 148th. And do believe no matter how we sign it, we're gonna have truck traffic coming through Devitt into 144th Street. So concerned about that, would prefer not to see that traffic coming down 148th, and would certainly like to see this development work with the county and get access over to County Road 8 and eliminate that issue. And eliminate the safety issue where that 148th is in relationship to Highway 94 as well. Having said that, I did provide an alternative to the cul-de-sac that is being proposed in a drawing. I know it's in your packet. I hopefully you've been able to look at it. And I should say, I have a background in distribution, design, and construction. And so I'm not just kind of pulling this stuff out of the air. I've designed many facilities in my career. And where that cul-de-sac is right now and how the property is gated, one tractor trailer is going to back up onto the cul-de-sac or their turnaround. The second tractor trailer, if it comes there, will also back up out into 148th. It isn't long enough to accommodate 2 tractor trailers. 8 to 5 operation. I know there will be truckers staged there for this business in the early morning, and I would think that many times it'll be more than 1 truck. We do not have the ability on 148th to have trucks staged out on 148th. So I did propose, if this goes forward, I did propose an alternate design. I would like them to move their gate south on the property. They have a 24-foot road, albeit a gravel road after the turnaround, which provides enough access to get that gate and access to the property, and eliminate the gate up front on the north side, or just use it as an exit. But that then gets any staging of tractor trailers off 148th and the turnaround to make sure that's always available for trucks to turn around that make the mistake and go down that road thinking it's the highway access. And I don't think it'll cost the business anymore or the developer to do that. It's just moving the gate and providing a better solution for the truck traffic there as well. I know I'm over my 4 minutes,
It's okay.
but I do have all of the documents in your packet,
Yep, and we have them.
okay?
At least I've read mine, so,
All right,
okay, thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Gentleman there, please come up, give your name.
Johann Mossman. I live on Devitt Avenue within 500 feet of this proposed business. When you were, the board here was talking about rezoning this property in August, one of you made the comment that the time to talk about the intersection would be when, you know, we saw what kind of businesses would come into being. So now we have Big Rig here. We have our proposal. So you didn't want to talk about the intersection back then. Now it's time to talk about it. That was a logic that was given by one of you anyway. So I would like to do that. I've done a little more research about that intersection. I cannot find a single intersection in the state of Minnesota that there's an interstate access that has a turn lane that's cut in half by another road. Not a single case in the state of Minnesota that I was able to find. Maybe in the country, But I suspect if we could find a situation like this where you have a high-speed road that has a turn lane that goes down to an intersection, to the entrance ramp to an interstate, you don't see those turn lanes bisected by another road. You just don't see it. I suspect if we find another example of this anywhere in the country, it's going to be an existing situation like we have now, where it's a very low traffic use, a neighborhood use, not a commercial use, not a big rig, meaning big truck use, and not a high traffic use, which is the next thing the developer has told me they're hoping to land for that property. So I really think Mark O'Brien, one of the neighbors, did a lot of work with his personal business expertise to show that there are some things we could do to realign this by moving the gate and doing some other things that help us do what Chad suggested is a possibility, and that is to realign this road on County Road 8 in a better way so that that turn lane is not bisected by a road. I think that's the most crucial and important thing we can do here today, is not develop this property until that safety issue is dealt with. It's not going to go away. It's not going to get better unless we do something about it. So I know the traffic department has put quite a bit of effort in, or some effort into talking about how it could be realigned. I know the township has talked about it a little bit, so that'd be great if we could make it a safer intersection. Number two, I would like to talk about the fact that it's a little bit misleading to say that the town board reconsidered. What happened in Silver Creek is the Planning and Zoning Commission of Silver Creek Township voted to deny this. And that Planning and Zoning Board includes the entire town board. So it's a bigger group of people than just the town board. Some of us feel it was inappropriate, and we'll deal with this as a housekeeping matter in Silver Creek, for the town board to go ahead and not actually reconsider, but totally change their decision. In other words, if the Planning and Zoning Board, like you, makes a decision, the county board certainly has a right to intercede, and it's happened sometimes in the last decades, but it's pretty rare, right? It often causes some hard feelings, even I think a threat of resignation, not all that long ago. My point being is, had the town board said, hypothetically, planning and zoning, you approve this, it would have been totally proper for them to say, we're going to add 3 or 4 more conditions to our approval. But that's not what happened. The Planning and Zoning Board of Silver Creek denied the request. That included every member of the town board. Then the town board at a later meeting changed their mind without notice and went a totally different direction. And so then the last thing I just would ask is that in the staff report, the last item is what I would encourage you to do, and that is to go ahead and defer this to the next month meeting and have staff prepare a denial report. And thank you very much. My property will be impacted in numerous ways. And I did forget to mention, the hours of operation are essentially the other little thing that was talked about at the Planning and Zoning meeting in Silver Creek. It'll be within 500 feet of a lot of houses on the lake. Having a pay lot, which is one of the things Big Rig has talked about, would allow people to come in and idle trucks all night. That doesn't seem to be a best use of the property, and it certainly has an impact on my property. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Gentleman there in the back, you want to come forward, please?
My name is Lauren Hafterson at 3469 144th Street Northwest. And they talked about doing damage. Well, my mailbox has been mowed over twice by semis coming down to Vitt, trying to turn on 144th. It wasn't until I got the town council to put a sign up right at that road that says, this isn't a freeway entrance. And I don't know, when you approve commercial property, why doesn't that commercial property come off of 8 and not off 148th? That's a narrow road. I don't know how you're gonna make a turn with a semi to get in there if there's gonna be 20 to 40 trucks and trailers in there a day. And then you're pushing that traffic out right next to the freeway. We already got the truck stop across the road, having semis come out of there. Now we're gonna have more semis coming out. To me, it should come out farther down on 8. That commercial property should have its own access to me to service that. And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Anyone else from the public that would like to comment? If there's no one else from the public, then we'll bring it back up here to the board. And Cole, if you want to come back to the podium, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to
Barry.
kind of get on the last comment that Mr. Mossman had referenced, the staff report does include a highlighted portion regarding what was brought up with the lease or the pay to park. That, and you also have the narrative in your packet, and so that wasn't part and listed at all in the narrative. And so as of now, if they approve it as submitted, that would be a violation of the CUP if you had that.
The pay to park, I think we have a misunderstanding about that. I will store vehicles for banks, long-term. There's nobody occupying the vehicles at that time. So nobody's gonna be coming in there running a truck all night.
So this isn't an overnight parking for over-the-road drivers?
No, absolutely not. No.
So
It's just storage for lenders that have repossessed items or, something like that.
So it still would be an 8 to 5 business. There wouldn't be anybody coming in.
We would be open 8 to 5, yeah, I mean,
There's not be trucks coming in at 7 o'clock, paying in a box and sitting there.
I don't,
or anything
I
like
don't
that.
see that happening. I had Scott actually increase the size of that cul-de-sac slightly, so I mean, it's somewhat oversized, I mean, very accommodating. I don't know that 2 tractor trailers could fit in there necessarily. And then the first time we went to the township, we didn't have a plan for a turnaround. The wetland was had very recently come to our attention. We had 2 entrances, and then the wetland kind of surprised us a little bit. So we didn't have a turnaround the first time, or the cul-de-sac, the first time we went in. The second time when it got approved, we had this plan with a resolution to, allowing trucks to turn around if they go down that road. So we think we have that solved. There would, of course, be signage saying no trucks beyond this point. I don't see that any of my customers or I'm gonna lead to any traffic going further down that road. I think it's gonna be very clear where the entrance is. That cul-de-sac is gonna very clearly be the best turnaround option when they see that the road narrows ahead and there's signs. I don't see that there's gonna be any traffic further down that road from my business.
Okay.
So we think we've addressed many of the initial concerns, so.
Any other questions or concerns here? Barry, I have a question. In our packet or a handout, the county, if I'm reading it right, would be open to relocating the access further south along the property. This would allow for proper development and turn lanes. I know last meeting I had brought that up, and at that time, we were told the county wasn't willing to do that, highway department.
No, I believe that last one was they weren't willing to add another access.
Correct. And I guess that's what I'm saying, where now it seems like in the
It would be
October 10th
relocation
one.
of the existing. They would close that existing. They're open to closing 148th Street, rerouting the township road, doing all that. They're not opposed to it, but they're not requiring it either.
Correct.
That's the information that I got from the highway engineer, is that if they want to do it, they would certainly entertain improving that location, moving 148th, the 148th Street intersection to the south. But there's nothing they can do to require it. They can't require the township or any developer to rebuild and realign the road. As you can see in the first comment, based on expected traffic generation from the proposed business, highway department does not have immediate concerns to impacts to County Road 8. And so they don't have any immediate concerns with this proposal. But they also reference that if that were to be a plan, they would entertain and work with the township and the developer on completely closing and relocating that access point.
So the property that lays out in front of it on County Road 8 is still a large piece of property. And if you were to put that into 2 lots, one of those lots is gonna have to have access to County Road 8. So you're saying that one of the lots would not have access if they were to split it, or they have no opportunity to split that lot?
They'd have to figure that out. As part of the development of that lot into multiple lots, they would have to, again, figure it out. Which would likely require, if they wanted, they could potentially divide that into 2 lots, both having access onto 148th Street. There's enough frontage on 148. Whether that's advisable or not, that's not up to me to decide. In the end, I mean, it can be looked at that time. You could do frontage roads or realign it and build a new road that transverses parcel A and reconnects with 148th Street, or realigns it that way. So it's a little more winding. You would come in going east, and then you would bend it to the north to then meet back up with the current 148th Street at some point along that northern frontage. I mean, it's all possible. It's just you're potentially impacting the amount of road, length of road you have to build, that kind of thing. So I mean, it still doesn't, doing this doesn't mean that won't happen in the future or with the next proposal or anything else.
I guess where I'm coming from is, this is the time to develop the proper right, and for the highway department to refuse to have an access onto the property frustrates me. I mean, if we had an access off of County Road 8 for this property, you could develop the property with, a driveway going into it, serving both of the lots along County Road 8, service this back lot that this gentleman is trying to develop, and it'd be pretty good.
Subdivision stage would have been when that should have occurred.
Yeah. But at that time, we were told the county would allow any other access onto County Road 8. So that's why we didn't I would say this board didn't necessarily do that, because the county was already saying, the county highway department was saying that they wouldn't allow any more access.
Correct, and what this says is that this isn't adding another access.
Right.
It's repositioning the first one. And their original, I'd have to look back, but what I'm pretty certain of is their comment was they wouldn't allow additional access points. So
But
the
that's
devil's in the details, and so
Yeah.
they weren't going to allow us another separate access for parcel A onto County Road 8. If they had said, well, we want to realign 148th Street south along County Road 108, I would guarantee you there'd be a different answer to it.
Because I guess I look at it, by realigning 148th and not allowing another access, it still creates the same problems we have right now of trucks going down 148th. And I agree, if it's signed, and hopefully drivers would read the signs and turn into the business property. But if they do go by, we're still not eliminating the challenge of 148th Street.
No matter how you do it, you're not eliminating that potential.
Right.
No matter how you do it.
Unless you could come with a different access off 8 and the county highway department doesn't want to allow that.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any other thoughts, processes anybody has concerns with?
I think, Mr. Chair, reading Chad Hausman's letter here, it to me sounds like he doesn't want an access right there because he wants the option to move 148 south. To me, that's what I'm reading into this. I'm trying to read in between the lines a little bit, but the last in number 4, it says that they'd like to request future submittals addressed item 2 above, which is the realignment of 148th Street.
Right.
And so if that was realigned, would that allow access into these other properties?
Potentially, depending on how it was realigned, but it still doesn't alleviate the potential traffic problem on 148th going beyond this business.
Right. No, it doesn't.
And I guess that's the part I was trying to, if it was developed and we had another access from County Road 8, you have, County Road 8 is flat there, it has good sight lines. I just don't understand why,
Right.
because it would be further south of the truck stop. I mean, I'm from there. I understand what the traffic is up there. I don't live there where these people do, but I live there. And you have a county park right across from this property. You have sight lines that are flat. You can see both ways. It's a straight shot. If the county would allow us to go in and develop this property, and if they would have allowed it before,
Right.
and not basically said, we will not allow it. So that's why I know this board didn't address it a lot at that time, because we were being told no. So, because I do understand what the residents are saying about this road there.
Right.
you know.
Absolutely.
So,
And when trucks coming in out of the property, when the business is closed, their gates are shut, they can't go into the property and turn around either.
correct.
So it's gonna require a cul-de-sac there
Yep.
in order for them to be turned around.
Yeah, no, for the way they have it designed with the cul-de-sac, it's a necessity to make sure that trucks can turn around there. If anything, like was brought up, if you could make that a little larger, so 2 trucks, just in case. I know it can be difficult for trucks. Any other concerns, Pat?
Yeah, 2 of them, 2 thoughts. I don't know the behavior of truckers. It seems to me that the problem that folks have had on Devitt up till now, or assuming this is built this way, where people just continued past a vacant parcel because they took the wrong turn onto 148th and are trying to loop around. It seems to me as though if somebody still makes that mistake, and they're not trying to get down here, and they see this big, beautiful cul-de-sac, I would think logic says that trucker says, I gotta turn around here, I missed the freeway. And we probably eliminate the problem that's on Devitt by having the cul-de-sac there. And I don't think that anybody who's actually made their way into your site is gonna go out and turn right down 148th. So I think it probably is better for the neighborhood along Devitt in not having trucks actually traversing down that. But I'm a little stuck on what you were on, Mr. Chair, which is that October 10th email from the Highway Department is a different message to me. And so now we have gone through the first part of the process, and we said we're going to address the issue here. And we get to here, and the goalposts, to me, have changed a little bit. And my concern that I'm trying to think through is we have what we have right now. We have nothing from the county highway that says, here's how we're going to actually accomplish this, and it'll be accomplished in the next 18 months and this sort of thing. So we've got the applicant here with the plan based on the facts as we have them. If the county's talking about closing 148th or realigning it to the south, are you envisioning that they're gonna have an access further into the south that is then going to move to the north to reconnect with where 148th is now, so that this access that's gonna be constructed at some cost is going to still be the way that folks are getting into this site.
Correct. So in my mind, that just isn't the proper way of doing it, because you're moving 148th down and gonna have to loop it down and go parallel with County Road 8 south and approach it. And so you're gonna have trucks, coming down to the south of County Road 8, coming into 148th, looping up and back and around and getting to that cul-de-sac. You're really not accomplishing much. You're still putting the truck traffic onto what is now a township road and will continue to be a township road for the
Yeah,
township to
I would
maintain.
agree. It's not the most orderly way of doing things now.
Correct.
But the property's been subdivided.
Yep.
And we have the application that's before us on the roads that we have before us. And as far as I'm concerned, everybody looks at 8 the same way we did the last go-round of these meetings and said this should be further down 8, and I think we all understood it won't be. And I don't know that we can fix right now that problem in any sort of decent way with this application.
Another thing that I read within our packets that is somewhat, I question, is within the motion, Barry, on a situation like this, it's got for township review in 1 year, and as the township deems after that. On something like that with a conditional use permit, I understand why we do it with many other things, but here you're putting in a multi-million-dollar business, I mean, a lot, with this conditional use permit. And the township just decides they don't want it. I mean, how does that work with, township review in a year with this type of a business, industrial? When we do house businesses or dog kennels or things like that, it's one thing, but when you're talking about a large business like this, I mean, they're jumping through multiple hoops through the township, the county, and then to have review in county or the township challenging their business when it is an industrial type business.
Let me see if I have, what I'm looking for. Generally speaking, those reviews, specifically include kind of, I would say, check boxes that say the township believes they're violating conditions. We just don't like it anymore is not one of the options that we give them to check on the box when it comes to those reviews.
Okay.
We specifically look for specific violations of conditions. And so generally what happens is if we get one of those where, they don't believe the whatever IUP or CUP that they're reviewing is actually following the conditions, we'll go out and personally verify it before we bring it back to the commission. And what that is if they do mark that, then it's request a new hearing, and which gives the property owner, the holder of the permit, the ability to address any of those, I would say, nonconformities that exist. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is no automatic revocation to it. At the worst, it's gonna require new review. Is it possible that you get a bad enough operator, I don't care how much money they spend, this commission can revoke the permit if they so desire. That's how this is set up. It's not about, the multi-millions. If you spend multi-millions, but you're not following your conditions, and you habitually not do it, the commission has that authority to revoke the permit and cease the business. Unfortunate, but we hope that's not the case, and I've never seen it to that level. I think we have had a few over the decades, 1 or 2 or 3, but it's not very many. A lot of those are kennels. But that's how those kind of work. They can request a new hearing. We'll verify and have those conversations with the township, and if they're verified, then we'll bring it back to this commission.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other concerns, questions? If not, how does the board want to proceed?
Is public comment still open?
Yes?
I was wondering if Silver Creek would want to comment on this at all. I do. I might have some questions for you.
Give your name, please, for the record.
Chris Klein, and I work for Silver Creek Township in the maintenance department. So if there's any maintenance related or road related questions, I can help with that. I also am on the planning commission, and I think you've got all the notes related to that from the first meeting.
So what I had a question on is on this cul-de-sac. Can you give me a picture as to how this would be set up when trucks come into this area so that they're going to see easily enough that they cannot go beyond that point?
From a maintenance advice to the board, the sign that's out on County Road 8 apron would likely stay there. There is enough room for a tractor trailer to make that left-hand turn. And there's also enough room if they're coming north to make the right-hand turn onto 148th. So I envisioned and had advised the board that that sign could stay there, saying that this is not a freeway entrance. There's also another sign under it that says this is a 5-ton road. That would be removed. And then we would put up another sign, probably just 50 feet or so past that new proposed cul-de-sac, basically with the same signage that's out there currently. No trucks beyond this point, 5-ton road only, no turnaround. And we could also narrow up that shoulders of the road so it really gets everybody's attention. At which point they'd have the opportunity to back up and get into that cul-de-sac and get turned around.
Okay.
Long-term, the board is considering, and there hasn't been any more discussion on this, but it will be coming up in the future, of vacating 148th on the east side of the log cabin property and creating a bigger cul-de-sac within that area, and then another cul-de-sac at the end of Devitt Avenue, which would then completely eliminate any potential commercial residential mixing of traffic.
I was wondering if the township had discussed that at all.
Okay. And the log cabin property is the,
Directly east of the proposed
This one right here.
development.
oh, okay, thank you.
There is some potential movement on that. That's something that the board could see within a year or so.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers
Yeah,
the
it
questions.
helps a lot because I think that, being 2 million miles on the road, I know signage makes a big deal. It does. It's really important because if it's visible and you see that, you're going to be in trouble if you're in there with a truck, you're not going to go
Yeah.
unless you're a gravel hauler. Sorry.
The signage, I mean, that simple sign out there has made a huge impact keeping the
Yep.
commercial traffic out of the residential area.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Any other questions for the township? Thank you, Chris. Johan, I'll give you just a couple minutes if you've got a statement to make.
Thank you. I just want to point out that
Please come up and give your name for the record.
Johan Mossman, Silver Creek Township. I know I made quite a presentation at a previous meeting regarding what is a safety concern here, and that is that the turn lane getting on off of County Road 8 onto the interstate entrance is bisected by our township road. If we leave that road there and increase the traffic, there's going to be a worse situation. So if the road is cul-de-saced, if the sign is put 50 feet or 100 feet past the cul-de-sac, so trucks have to back up, it's just going to create a worse safety situation at the intersection of the township road, County Road 8, which is also in the interstate right-of-way. And then why I bring that to your attention is we have three entities who could close this, in my opinion. One would be the township, could say, we don't like this intersection, it's not safe. Whatever development is going to make it less safe, we want to close it. Wright County could do the same. At some point, the traffic department might say, we want to close this. It's not safe. It's in our jurisdiction. It's our turn lane. The state, MnDOT, or the federal government, for that matter, could say it's in the interstate right-of-way. It is in the interstate right-of-way. I guess I don't have the drawings with me tonight, but I have them. They could also say the same thing. And my question then is, what do we do? What do they do? We've put them in a bind. This is a moment. I mean, I thought it was a moment in August to talk about this and figure it out. This is a moment. It's going to be less safe, even if we do the cul-de-sac like the township is considering. And of course, we'll have a lot to say if that's the way it goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have Mr. Mossman, if I can follow up with you just a little bit. If I understand what Mr. Klein said, he's talking about maybe what this looks like in the future is a cul-de-sac on the end of Devitt. So everybody be coming in from 144th, all the residential traffic, right? And I'm looking for confirmation. I should have asked Chris this, but I didn't. Is that your understanding of what the future might look like?
If
Am I
it's a
getting that right?
cul-de-sac, it would have to be that. So
Right.
that would mean me and my kids, when we're going to Monticello, we're getting on County Road 8 further away, we're coming up to highway speed, we're getting in the turn lane to get on the interstate, and now there's all the truck traffic is coming out there. Right now, you know, you could argue it's a little bit safer because we're not up to speed, we're at a stop when we navigate that kind of tricky intersection. But there's going to be more and more traffic with these other lots being developed. So again, I would say this is a moment. I know it's a hard decision. I know no one likes it. I know there's a lot of money on the line, but it's not a surprise. This has been talked about for, frankly, a long time. So, yes.
Do you use 148th right now despite the safety concerns that you have to get down to your house?
I go either way, depending on which direction I'm going. And yes, I do. And again, if there's more traffic, that may change. There will be more traffic with more development. Well,
Yeah, you might have to adjust.
we all will try to do the safest thing for ourselves and our kids, for sure.
One last one, I didn't have the beacon map up. I think you said your place was like 500 feet from this business.
Less than.
Are you on the west side of Devitt?
On Lock Lake,
You're on the lake?
yep, about,
Okay. I mean, so realistically, right, you're probably 1,300 feet away from where the actual business operations will be.
no, across the wetland, it's less than 500 feet. I'm in the beacon notification.
Barry, would you,
Notification distance 1320.
I'm sorry.
well, and I'm trying to,
As I
I'm
measured
trying
it,
to currently think through the impact on the neighborhood, and I'm trying to figure out proximity to the actual business, knowing that that wetland is there. All right, so if, I don't know whether, Barry, if you're on Mr. Mossman's house or not, but it's like 1,600 feet to approximately where the trailers might be sitting out there in the future. The screening that exists out there from those wetlands, from Devitt looking to the west, I'm trying to picture the opaqueness of that tree line and whether there's,
It's been thinned out some, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is one of the things that was talked about when planning and zoning denied the development, was whether or not there'd have to be some fencing and other barriers for noise and visual. So that would be on the property between the wetland and the parking lot, basically. So there are a lot of considerations there.
But we're talking about putting a fence up 1,500 feet away on the other side of trees and on the other side of wetland, right? And in your view, if we get to that point, do you think there should be fencing of some sort put up as a visual screening for something that's a quarter mile away?
I'm not worried about the visual so much as the noise bouncing away from the lake. And this has been a discussion that I've had in great depth with MnDOT regarding interstate noise and
Yeah.
techniques.
Well,
So
and that's a fair point. The noise is a constant out by 94. It might not be as constant overnight with the hours of operation that they're talking about from 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, and Saturdays by appointment. It seems to me that any sort of noise screening that we might think about is, I have a tough time understanding what that would accomplish, given that the operation is going to involve a trailer coming in or out, not tens of thousands of vehicles traveling at 70 to 100 miles an hour all day long.
are you looking for a response?
I am.
I would invite you to walk the property with me. I think that you're absolutely right. If this is going to be approved tonight, and if we're not talking about the safety concerns of the intersection, I think those kind of noise requirements can be addressed by hours of operation and some sort of solid fence that runs parallel to County Road 8 before the lowland. I think it's beneficial. I don't know that from a site point of view it impacts me at all, but I think from a sound point it does, as does our operation.
Do you hear County Road 8 road noise right now?
I would say I hear more in the wintertime idling trucks from the truck stop, and honestly, this will help with that, I feel, from the existing truck stop.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Mossman.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mossman, please.
Okay, Ken, I'm sorry.
I have a question. You had mentioned earlier, and I wasn't following you. You indicated that 148th bisected the entrance to I-94.
No, the county turn lane to get on to 94 going towards Monticello. I guess I could have brought those drawings. I would assume Beacon shows that if we,
Could you move that south a little bit, Barry?
You want to see farther south?
a little bit,
Well,
that's probably too far.
one could also construe that right turn lane is for 148th as well.
And
Are you
that
strictly-
creates near
Are you
accidents.
strictly calling that the entrance to I-94?
That's how it's been portrayed to me by the previous county road director, Virgil.
Okay, I now see what you're talking about. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
May I add just one more comment?
Yes. I mean, there's only a couple of you, yes. I want to be
I was gonna
fair.
mention this and I forgot.
Can you give your name? Can you give
Mark
your name, please?
O'Brien, a resident on Devitt as well. This morning I Googled this new address coming up from County Road 8 from the south going north. It gave me an alternate route to go 144th Street through Devitt the other direction, which is also a concern that we potentially will have truckers coming up 8 to the business. And they will, if they haven't been there before, they could get an alternate direction to come through the neighborhood the other direction now. So, and I didn't mention that to Chris, but now we're gonna have to put signs up on 144th as well to keep trucks from coming through the neighborhood. But I'm concerned that that's a possibility because we don't have a business that has trucks on that road today.
I'm sure that will come to that, is more signage.
Well, I guess I'd like it noted that we probably do need more signage if this is approved, not later, but as it's completed.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right, thank you. We'll bring it back up here. Any other concerns? How does the board want to proceed?
Mr. Chair, a question for Greg or Barry, just from the mechanics of if the county now has the epiphany and wants to move 148th or close 148th, the access into what is Big Rig would be coming off of 148th. The access, I mean, you could close 148th right today, and there would still be access to Big Rig. Down 144th, up Devitt, and then west down 148th.
Oh, gosh, no.
Well, you could, right? You can have this sort of circuitous access, and what I'm concerned about, and I'm just trying to understand how this works, is if you're gonna shove the access or shove the new 148th somewhere further down south on 8th, and then you're going to get into the property and immediately go north so that you reconnect to 148th, and Big Rig keeps its access today. I mean, that's really what the future has to look like if we're going to move 148th to the south, is it goes in and immediately goes up to where 148th is now, right?
Right.
Where's those gonna be public roads, fully funded by the township, by the county? Who's gonna build, who's gonna have that cost burden? Anybody?
So generally speaking, all I can tell you is from my experience and knowledge of this is there are any number of ways where that realignment can be done without actually impacting or substantially impacting Big Rigs at all. We have another business property here that portion of 148th that in this aerial, the parcel that ends in 212100, that's also a commercial property. And so you cannot cut off access to that. So this, in any type of realignment of 148th is going to impact that, or that has to remain unless a complete redevelopment, would be done, but that's highly unlikely. So what I can tell you is,
Wait, hold on, Barry, you're talking about the log cabin.
yes.
148th could be closed. There is
Yes.
access.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Just so we're clear on that, like, that
No,
could be
yes, I
closed at
do-
any
I do
time. They could
complete-
say this is too unsafe, and we rather you go down 144th and Devitt and then back to the west on 148th. It's an unlikely scenario, I would hope.
You're talking a cutoff more on the west side of Big Rigs, right? That's what
Yeah.
you would say. So Big Rig still has their access, but all the trucks are now going around the block. Is that what you're saying?
Well, okay, so on the beacon that is up right now.
Yep.
In the future, what we're talking about, I think, if you're drawing a road right now, it's gonna come in, move to the east, and then go to the north to get up to Big Rig's access, because here we are today with the roads being what they are, and with Big Rig's about to spend a lot of money to develop an access there and planning for that rather than some road to be named later coming in there. Is that fair?
Yes.
And with the decision,
To kind of answer your question, generally when these types of roads go in and this kind of stuff happens, the cost is borne by the developer. That's how I've seen it.
so now we're gonna have the cost of a full road to go in and not just serve the property from the interior, which makes all the sense in the world. We all would have thought that made a lot of sense at our last meeting. And now the developer and the future buyer of, I don't know if that's called parcel B, parcel C, or what its name is going to be purchasing a property that is cut in half by a road because months after we were told the road's not moving, we learned that maybe it could.
Correct. I guess
I don't know
that's,
that I have a question even, I'm just like frustrated.
yeah, that's what I'm very frustrated that way because Big Rig was in here, we talked about it, we went through it. It was my understanding, and I know it was discussed, and it was says, nope, the county highway department will not allow another access. So Big Rig takes that, they've been working on it, the township has put time and diligence into it, residents have put time and diligence into it, and now we get a thing where the county says, you know, you can move 148th and access the road someplace else, but we didn't even have that as an option then, to be able to develop it. And you have to keep 148th there because you never know that the log home I know has been for sale for a long time. So somebody could come in and buy that as an industrial, tear the house down and put something else up. You don't know what the development or what happens. We've all sat here long enough not to predict what's gonna happen. So I guess that's why I started the conversation. Because any way you look at it with that log home there, they've got to have access, and by not, the way it's designed now and the way with Big Rig and its property, the way the lot was split, you're still gonna have to come around to get to 148th to be able to access that property. So one way or another, 148th is gonna have to stay open, whether it's cul-de-sac or not, or however they do it. One way or another, you're gonna have to. So it's kind of to a situation, it's the only option is to move 148th south, come around those trees or wherever they want to do it, and to develop that property from there.
Given the road is where it is now, or the access is up off 148th for Big Rig, you had the thought of expanding the cul-de-sac up there to allow space for two semis, and I know that the engineer is here. I don't know if it would be worthwhile to hear from Mr. Dahlke about the feasibility of expansion of that up there. Mr. Chair, if we could build a record on that a little bit.
Yep. Do you want to come up? You're along with the applicant, so you're not.
My name is Scott Dahlke, project engineer for the Big Rig project. Right now, what's showing on the plan there is a 100-foot diameter. Trucks don't need quite that much space in their typical template for turnarounds. We are looking at expanding that to a 120-foot diameter here. That's what Cole was talking about. Could we increase the size of that? You know, or if you want to pull up the plan there again to show where it is, it's going to be partly shared on parcel B on the Big Rig side and on parcel A, which is seller property. Could it be made a little bit larger? I guess who would you like us to coordinate with to determine what the right dimension is? I guess, you know, so far we've been working well with township and what the township deemed appropriate, and that's what we're showing here. So I guess we can revisit it some more, but
Well, does
it
the
would be
change
a
that you're
minor
talking
change.
about from a 100-foot radius to a 120-foot radius,
Diameter, yep.
I'm sorry, diameter?
Yep.
Does that accomplish what you're
Definitely,
looking?
it provides more space. You know, we
It lets
can-
two skilled truck drivers pass each other, or use that at the same time?
I would think that's a pretty large diameter. Or Chris, do you have any thought on how much bigger, or if any, would be needed to provide some more space? I mean, 120-foot diameter is a large space.
If the board Chris Klein, Silver Creek Maintenance again. If the board pleases, you mentioned skilled. I believe 2 skilled truck drivers could navigate. One could be parked there, another one could pull up alongside and turn, jackknife it and make the curve to get out of there. There's also shouldering there. If you had the absolute worst case scenario and this was a gravel pit and they're not open yet and everybody's waiting to get in there to get loaded, which isn't the case. There's a lot of parking along the shoulder and taking up part of the eastbound lane. And the amount of traffic, residential traffic that's in that area, I just don't foresee that being an issue. Even in the worst part of winter when it's snow plowing, we have to navigate around the semi-trucks at the truck stop. They're parked everywhere because they can't be on the freeway. It's just too dangerous for them. And they're basically got one lane, and it might be right down the middle where they're parked on both shoulders there of our township road. So it's not ideal, but everybody seems to manage, and there's been no fatalities or accidents or issues related to it.
When you're talking about a truck jackknifing and backing up to get out of there, when they're making that maneuver, are they hanging out onto 148th? Or is the cul-de-sac big enough to accommodate all that maneuvering?
I haven't looked at detail of the plan, but I would imagine that they would be partly into cul-de-sac,
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
that about halfway into it at least.
Yeah, the northerly part of the turning radius does utilize 148. So you are swinging around and utilizing that, 24-foot wide pavement as part of your maneuver. But you want to use that here, in this case here, to be able to get back aligned in the drive lane, then continuing back west. So 120-foot diameter, I believe, is sufficient space to do what you're looking for it to do.
Okay. Thanks.
Can I make a comment again?
Now, we've,
Mr. Chair,
I do have design and construction experience.
Mr. Chair, I can attest to that with my 2 million miles on the road, that 120 feet is ample to turn around a 65-foot trailer behind a tractor trailer. Ample room. Okay.
Ken?
Mr. Chair, Barry, on Beacon Maps, can you determine where that I-94 right-of-way is? In the area of the ramps, southeast quadrant of the intersection.
Our beacon map does not have the I-94 right-of-way. I'm yep, that's what I'm doing. So that's, I believe in this area along 94, it's not right-of-way, it's actually, they actually own
Well,
to the edge of
yes.
the right-of-way.
Yeah, I get that. I just wanted to know where the demarcation line was between that and the right-of-way for 148th.
It's the
They are-
same, it's
they
the same
do not
line.
fall within, in other words, I was curious, Barry, if the 148th Street was encompassed within the I-94 right-of-way, and it appears that it is not.
okay.
Am I correct?
Yeah, so in this spot here, 148th Street and that kind of turn lane, that area, maybe there's some crossover
Yeah,
there.
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions, concerns here from the board? So does the board want to proceed? Somebody willing to take a stab at a motion? Are we wanting to approve, disapprove?
How would we fashion a condition that The 120 diameter is not shown presently today. It'd be a required filing showing that the cul-de-sac has been expanded to 120 feet diameter. Is that how we would make that condition? Is that good enough?
I'll let council answer
Yeah.
that.
Mr. Chair, Member Malberg, I would agree with that condition, if you want to place that on it.
I'm ready to make a motion. I don't know, do I need to do anything with the public hearing?
You can close it.
Make a motion to close the public hearing and approve an interim use permit for a truck sales business with diesel services and repair business in accordance with the narrative and site plan on file with the following conditions. 1, signage on site must be in accordance with the county sign regulations. 2, wetlands must not be disturbed, altered, or filled unless proper approval has been received by the Wright County Soil and Water Conservation District, and no construction or site prep activity may commence or building permits issued until the SWCD has either approved the appropriate permit or indicated in writing that a permit would not be needed. 3, business activities on the site cannot commence until the proper building permits have been issued and the stormwater management measures installed. 4, proper permits through the MPCA, if required, are granted and submitted at the time of building permit application. 5, driveway permits issued through the township and construction of the turnaround must be constructed and approved by the township prior to the building permit application being submitted and including expansion of the existing cul-de-sac as depicted to a diameter of 120 feet to the township road supervisor satisfaction. 6, township to review. I'm not going to include that as 6. 6, this permit shall immediately and automatically expire upon transfer, except for the initial transfer to the applicant or applicant's business, termination of any lease agreement or change in the business operations or ownership.
All right, I have a motion.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Do we have any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so on the last condition that Member Malberg read, when I read it, where the punctuation is on that makes a great big difference. So I just want to amend condition 7. It says this permit shall immediately and automatically expire upon transfer, termination of lease agreement, or change in business ownership or operation, with the exception of the original transfer to the applicant or applicant's business. Where I put that comma, it looks
You're
like
just-
it's accepting out everything else as well.
Fine, you're going to take the second clause and make it the last clause.
Yeah,
Fine.
that's all, basically what I did.
Sure.
And then, thinking about the screening, it didn't pop into my head when I was writing this, but there actually are specific screening provisions when abutting a residential district. So in this case, the south property of the Vondra Soto property is actually zoned agricultural residential, which is a residential district. So I'd like to add the final condition that says screening and fencing along the south property line is required and must be as directed by section 155.078 of the Wright County Code of Ordinances. So there's some different screening provisions that they can use there, and rather than getting into those weeds, they just need to follow that, and it'll be conditioned as part of their building permit as well.
In 155.078, is that a?
Screening and fences.
I have not committed it to memory. It's a discretionary or it's an obligatory screening? Because I think what we're talking about screening is a farm field.
Yes, but it's obligatory. When any business is adjacent to property zoned or developed for residential use, the business or industry shall provide screening along the boundary of the residential property.
So it's zoned, excuse me, well, it's, the zoning requires it. And
Correct.
And though the corn won't care.
Although the corn won't care and it's an ag field currently, the zoning requires, since it was rezoned, screening and fencing is required, and/or fencing is required.
Sounds fine. Do you generally abide by the law?
So you.
Condition
willing
can
to
go on
add
there
that
too, yes.
Condition 8.
Yeah. 7, isn't it?
Ends up being 7 because you
I
struck.
skipped 8 out of,
You
there's
skipped
6,
6,
excuse
yep.
me.
Okay, so you're
Yes.
making that, Dan
Second honors that.
honors that, okay. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you.
Dan.
Before we go on, we're going to have a 5-minute chairman break.
actually put it out there. Can't go or will go.
We'll call the meeting back to order. Next on the agenda is Lori Steffens. You want to come to the, and give your name?
My name is Robin Brzee, and I am Lori's sister. This property that we're talking about here pertains to me. I did the last application, so Barry said it was okay if I came instead of Lori.
Absolutely.
All right. Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if the commission recalls, this property was recently rezoned to R1. This is the second phase of that, which is the 2-lot platted subdivision. All lots meet the minimum requirements for R1 lots, have septic sites, and I believe the commission site inspected it in the rezoning phase. So I don't have a whole lot more. The township recommended approval into 3 parcels, which includes that portion south of 142nd Street. And we didn't get any other responses.
Okay, thank you.
The portion south of 142nd is staying ag.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, anything else you need to add?
This is the preliminary division plot.
This is the preliminary plat approval stage. If approved here, there's no other public meetings.
Right.
There are some procedural stuff that different boards have to do, but there is no public attendance. Basically, from this point on, it's gonna be the surveyor submitting, if it gets approved, the information to the surveyor's office, which then filters to other departments. And then during that stage, there are different things that'll have to get paid, property taxes, plat checking fees. There's different fees from different departments. There's a checklist that you'll get that list out what all is needed and where it goes. The county attorney will review title opinion for the property. All that stuff needs to get done before the final plat is done. As far as these types of hearings, this is the last one, if approved.
So once it's all approved, then the new property ID numbers are assigned?
Once the plat, so what happens is this gets complicated even internally with our departments. Is there's a second preliminary plat stage that's what the surveyors call it. So your surveyor will submit a preliminary plat to the surveyor. They'll look at it. Our department looks at it. Other departments look at it. If there's anything wrong with it, we send that information back to the surveyor. Surveyor corrects it, sends it back, and we do that back and forth until everything is good. And then once that's done, they prepare what are called Mylars. It's basically a film that they printed on. Once those get received, then the different department heads go through and sign where they need to sign. We'll put it onto this board just as a item at the end of a meeting where it authorizes the chairman's signature. He'll sign it. Once that's done, it goes to the county board for their signature. They're not public hearings. These are just procedural things that happen once the county board signs it. That is when the PIDs will be created.
Okay. So in other words, for 2025 taxes, we're still looking at the entire lot here. We're not looking at the subdivision yet, correct?
That I don't deal with taxes. I can't tell you that answer.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out when the actual property identification is assigned, because that closes out the estate.
At this point in time, it's gonna be 2025.
Okay.
So before that plat is recorded, the taxes for the year will be paid, have to be paid, and that likely is as per the entire property.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
So we get notified of this approval by mail? If it's approved?
You'll know it right now.
You'll
Oh.
know shortly, one way
Okay.
or another here.
All right.
Okay. Ken, did you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ma'am, now I see on the preliminary plat here, just south of Lot 1, there's an existing shed which appears to be in what probably is dedicated right-of-way?
Yes. That
what's
shed
the-
is
what's
going
the
to
dis-
be, that shed is going to be moved over into Lot 2. It's going, but it won't be in the right of way. it's movable. So
When
it's
will that occur?
probably not till spring or when it warms up and it's not below zero. My, my niece and her husband live on lot 2, and so they're going to move that shed over to their lot. Does it have to be done?
No, I'm not suggesting that at all.
No, I
was
mean, I just need to know a timeline.
Oh, I
if
don't
they-
know.
Okay,
I would,
yes, we're aware that it's in that right of way.
Okay, very
area,
well.
So, yeah, so, because the surveyor told us that, and so, yes, it is going to be moved over to lot 2.
thank you for the
Okay.
information.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Otherwise, is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Anyone from the public? If not, we'll bring it back up here. Any other questions, concerns, or is somebody ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion. I would move to approve a conditional use permit for a 2-lot platted subdivision in accord with the record of these hearings and the preliminary plat of ZB Acres completed by Otto Associates dated 8/15/2024. Project number 24-0329 with the following conditions. Number 1, prior to the filing of the final plat, the park dedication fee shall be paid in cash along with the other fees as noted on the plat checklist. And B, a title opinion is submitted and accepted by the county attorney. Number 2, no construction may commence until the county board has approved the final plat. Number 3, access permits, if required, must be obtained from the township prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 4, livestock is prohibited except as allowed by the Wright County Code of Ordinances.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries.
Thank you for
All
your
right.
time.
Thank you. Number 5, Joshua Worm. Want to come up, please, and give your name for the record, and we will get started.
Hello, Joshua Worm.
All right, Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this property is a roughly 2.7 acre property located along Highway 55 east of the city of Maple Lake in Maple Lake Township. It is zoned I-1 industrial with a portion of the property within 1,000 feet of Maple Lake, so it also carries that S2 overlay district designation. It is in the land use plan as limited industrial. In 1978, this property and the neighboring property to the west were roughly 6.44 acres. This was split from a larger farmstead and rezoned. In 78, there was also a conditional use permit for warehousing and manufacturing on the 6.44 acre property total. Oh, where did I?
There.
Oh, thought I had the zoning and land use in there. Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman.
I got some acreage.
Yeah. And then it was split into 2 lots in 1981, which is the arrangement that we have today. This request is for a commercial contractor's yard for a directional boring company that includes a fairly extensive outdoor storage area as depicted on this site plan. The narrative and description of the business is included in your packet. The only response we did get was from Maple Lake Township, where they did recommend approval.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this matter? Anyone from the public? If not, we'll bring it back up here for questions. On your outdoor storage, one of the questions I would have is, are you using any screening there?
I can, right? I didn't. More so, it would be for like trailers, like a skid loader trailer. Obviously, you can see we're headquartered out of Wyndham. We're more in particular for the building itself to grease our bearings, wash some equipment off, and we have like like I said, little trailers or little real dollies. But yeah, I mean, we're open to whatever. It's not gonna be a lot. As you can see, we got 5 to 7 employees that work in this whole area. Some days there'll be nobody there. But yeah, I mean, if we need to, we can.
So if it's trailers, but how many reels of underground pipe or plastic are going to be?
Honestly, probably none. We generally, speaking, if anything, it got delivered there and then we take it to the job site. For instance, like we're working for the city of Buffalo for their fiber department, and we share the old gravel pit with them right behind Neil's. So every time we get a job in a said city or location, we generally get a yard, lay down yard we call it, and store our trailers, reels, interduct there. Now, when a job's over, there might be 1 or 2 in between the next job out there, but I feel there's enough room out back where we could kind of hide the reels. You know, if there was some, you know, it's an eyesore. Nobody likes seeing it, right? We don't want to see it, so we don't leave it there. We'll have a dumpster, you know, probably a 20-yard roll off, maybe I don't think we'll need a 40, but up by the building just for guys cleaning out their trucks at night, back them in neatly and whatever. But yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns of what? As far as lighting, existing lighting, are you gonna be adding any lighting?
I was gonna leave the existing on there. I mean, it's kind of I was more concerned with if it'd shoot at 55 too much, or, you know, so if anything, maybe towards that propane tank, you know, like putting up a light pole eventually and kind of over by that yard, but it's, yeah, I mean, not really.
Okay. Well, and if there's no other questions, or anybody ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair. Make a motion to approve an interim use permit for a commercial contractor's yard for a directional boring company that includes outdoor storage area in accordance with the narrative and site plan on file with the following conditions. 1, signage on site must be in accordance with the county sign regulations. 2, wetlands must not be disturbed, altered, or filled unless proper approval has been received.
Wright County SWCD.
I'm just going to stop it as received. 3, township to review in 1 year with subsequent reviews at an interval established by the township. 4, this permit shall immediately and automatically expire upon transfer, termination of any lease agreement, or change in business operations or ownership, with the exception of the initial transfer to the applicant or applicant's business.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, you did bring up lighting, so if there was to be a condition on lighting, you don't want any? Okay,
I'm not looking to make one, not with where this site is
Okay.
and the fact that it's a propane storage
well,
unit
that
next
was the
door.
only thing I would add, was that if any additional lighting is added, it be directed away from Highway 55.
Correct.
Condition number 5, if any additional lighting is added, it shall be directed away from, or at least not in a way that would adversely affect Highway 55 traffic.
Right? Second? Okay,
Yep.
all right. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Number 6 is Deborah Kastner. If you want to come up and give your name, please, for the record.
Deborah Kastner.
All right, Barry, when you are ready.
All right, Mr. Chairman, this request is kind of part of a two-part request, so agenda item number 6 and number 7 are the same property. This specific item is for a conditional use permit to allow a feedlot to have 20.3 animal units on a property designated as rural residential in the Wright County Land Use Plan, which by feedlot rules requires a conditional use permit. It's not just a permitted use. The property itself is roughly 81 acres along 80th Street in Monticello Township. As noted, it's rural residential in the land use plan, but currently agricultural in the zoning map. It is within 1,000 feet of North Lake to the north and Cedar Lake, North Lake would be to the east and Cedar Lake to the south. Lost myself a little bit here. So the site currently has an existing horse farm. Previous owner had an unknown number of horses. There are 8 stalls in the east barn. Existing feedlot and rural residential land use must receive a conditional use permit to have 10 or more animal units. The applicant is proposing to expand to 20.3, consists of 20 horses and 2 goats, currently 16 horses and 2 goats on the property. The expansion will allow them to keep their existing horses and take in an occasional rescue. An existing manure storage area is being improved by installing an impervious floor, and they are working with the NRCS on the design for that, as well as a feedlot permit that will need to get issued. So Monticello Township has approved this CUP, and we have not received any other responses.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Anything you would like to add to that?
Nope.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this? Gentleman there, if you want to just have a seat, please.
Yes.
And we'll give him the floor. You want to give your name, please, for the record?
My name is Michael Weiss. I live at 1085 90th Street Northeast, which is on North Lake. This is my 40th winter on North Lake. And I say that because I can speak to how North Lake and Cedar Lake have both deteriorated, both Cedar Lakes, over the last 40 years, in particular, approximately around the year 2000. And what I mean by deteriorated is the lakes are no longer clear, they're murky, and they're very weedy. I can tell you that Cedar Lake and North Lake froze out 2 years ago. So if anyone wants to go fishing on those 2 lakes, they're wasting their time right now. There are no fish. I point this out because the topographical, what I mean by that is this property sits about 300 feet on a hill above these 3 lakes. And there's runoff that are coming off these 3 lakes. How I have seen Cedar Lake and North Lake deteriorate is there's a farm on North Lake that farms to within 100 feet of the shoreline. And each year it seems to have gotten a little bit worse. The nitrogen level is higher. I recently had my own well tested, actually it was 2 years ago. And as of now, my water is no longer safe for newborns because of the nitrogen level. This is a huge runoff area, and it's because of the topographical, this hill, and this is, I believe they used to call it Monticello Golden Hills area. Well, this Golden Hill is one of the highest, and I can see it upward from my property, a beautiful area. But I have questions about this. I'm very concerned about it. This 20 to 30 horses, it appears like a typo on here. Is this 30, a maximum of 30 horses?
It's 20.3 animal units.
20.3, how do you break down an animal?
It's MP's, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has a list of all livestock and how many of each constitute an animal unit. So for instance, a horse is 1 animal unit, a dairy cow is 1.4. It's because of poundage and manure produced.
Okay, well then, my question is it a maximum of 20 horses that's allowed?
It's a maximum of 20.3 animal units.
A pony's
I'm
different than a
sorry.
full-grown horse.
Yeah.
All right, and that's it, no more?
It's done by animal units, not necessarily animal numbers.
That's kind of scary.
No, it's not. It's actually our rules that we've adopted in the state of Minnesota to account for different sizes of animals. A pony is less than a full-on, full-grown horse. It doesn't create the same amount of manure, so it doesn't have the same number of animal units. And as it grows, it gets a bigger animal unit. That's how the state regulates these animals to account for the different sizes, different breeds, and different types.
All right, so it won't be any more than 20 animal units then?
20.3 is what's being requested.
20.3 is being requested.
And it can't be higher than that?
I can't guarantee rule changes in the future. Currently,
Okay.
before this planning commission is 20.3.
I appreciate that. Again, it's all about the runoff. And it's the geographical, the way that it's situated. This property is right in the middle of the top of the hill. Everything runs down. Water, everything. We have groundwater seepage, we have coming off the surface. I've seen it deteriorate these lakes. This is right in the middle of 3 lakes. And a feedlot right in the middle of 3 lakes, I just have a big question about that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Gal over here. Give your name, please, for the record.
Sure. Lori Johnson, and I am a member of Copper Bowl Equine Co-op. So I just want to say, and I'm also a fisher lady on Cedar Lake, and I do fish every year, and I've caught fish every year. So we, as a co-op, work very hard to keep the property clean and pristine. We muck daily, hundreds of pounds, not hundreds of pounds, but whatever we can. It sure feels like a lot, but we put it properly in the compost pile. There's only 16, actually probably 15 and a half, because one's a pony. 2 are ponies. So there's not 20 horses, and there are 2 goats, right? But this place has changed my life. It's changed their life, and it just means the world to us. We do everything we can to keep the property up, and I just can't say enough about the property and what it's done for me. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else that would like to comment? If not, we'll bring it back up here. If the applicant wants to come back up, in case there's any questions or you have anything else you want to add? You have to get the microphone, otherwise we can't hear you.
Deborah Kastner, and I wanted to address your concerns.
You just, please address the board.
Okay.
Just talk to us and he can hear.
Okay, addressing his concerns, one of the first things we did after we purchased the property is we recognized we had lakes on both sides. So I went to Wright County and began to ask them, what can we do to make improvements to ensure that we're not polluting North Lake? Cedar Lake, a little bit different because of the way the animals sit. So it is a concern of mine too, and I'm working towards improvements. So,
Okay. Any questions up here? I guess my question would be, what are some of those improvements you've been doing for manure management? I'm sure you're working with the county feedlot, but I guess what are some of those things that you are doing to try to improve manure management, getting it hauled out? Do you have the proper areas and fields to be able to haul it, being it's somewhat of a residential area?
I have had it removed before,
Okay.
but we try to be practical too. We reuse it on our fields, which are, if you look at the map, I know I'm pointing, but on our hay fields, we do pick it up off of our pastures, paddocks, and just kind of recycle it into our property. You see the pond on our property. We've built gardens to try to, if there's any ground seepage, to try to use it as a composting type format. So,
Do you have any type of I understand you're using it on your property, but do you remove it once or twice a year, portions of it? Are you using it
2
as-
years we've removed it, had it removed and had it hauled off.
Are you utilizing some type of a compost pile or manure pile?
Yes.
As those farmers call it,
The
a manure
existing,
pile?
yeah. The existing, or a previous owner had a manure pile, a muck pit is what we call it.
Okay.
So
And you haul that, try to clean that out once a year?
probably 3 to 4 times a year. We're doing it. We're really actively moving it.
And most of that is going on your property and not being hauled
Used-
away?
A lot of it is being used on our property.
Okay. Now, are you working with soil and water on any of that as to the amounts and the tonnage you're putting on your acreage? Because I know an actual farmer can only put so many tons and so much on per year with soil samples. And have you soil sampled or anything?
Yes, we
No.
have. I am working with Wright County
Okay.
currently with not only on the muck pile, but on our pastures. So there are soil samples being taken.
Yeah, because that would be my concern. I mean, when you start hauling manure year after year after year, it gets to the point where your soils don't need any more.
Yeah.
You might think so, but they don't need it. It should be being hauled off-site. So,
Yeah, this is our 4th year there, so 2 of the years we've removed it.
okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, concerns? Ken?
Mr. Chair, ma'am, I'm reading our notes here provided in the staff report. So right now you have 16 horses and you want to increase that to 20.
Well, 20 animal units. We have 16 horses, 2 goats, and a chicken.
Okay, how many animal units does that consist of currently then?
So
Roughly 16.3.
16 point, okay. And you're asking for 20.2, 20.3. 4 horses, additional horses,
yeah,
basically.
and the main reason, probably a little more than a quarter, maybe a third of our horses, I've even taken in from neighbors as rescues. The heart of the co-op is very passionate volunteers to help take care of them.
All right.
So
And Barry, I might have missed this somewhere, but what's the max allowed on this site?
20.3.
20.3.
That's what they're asking for.
That's what they're asking for. The max
Okay.
allowed is
Okay, so here's
up
my
to
point.
500.
You got 16, you're asking for 4 more. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? I guess with what we're talking about on 6, and then this ties in with 7, is that correct, Barry? As far as the recreational permit is for this property also?
7 is the next request.
Right. Between these two, and I know it's not probably the opportune time, but does the board want to do a site inspection? Because we're looking at number 7, which is next, is for recreational tourism. They tie in together, and many tourisms we've looked at before for site inspections. But I don't know. It's up to the board.
From where I sit, the 2 stand alone, and the use of this property where it's located and its size for 20 point whatever it is, animal units, doesn't need a site visit, but
Okay.
we might need it for the next one. But I think we could make a decision on this one without it.
That's fine. I just wanted to throw it out there.
Yep.
For consideration.
Mr. Chair,
Janice?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve a conditional use permit for a feedlot of 20.3 animal units with the following conditions. A feedlot, number 1, a feedlot permit must be issued prior to construction of the manure stockpile or adding more livestock shelters. Number 2, all plans and specifications for the proposed manure stockpile areas must be followed. And number 3, any expansion of the feedlot to more than 20.3 animal units will require a new conditional use permit.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
A motion, and I have a second. Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Number 7 is also Deborah Kastner. Barry, when you're ready, do you want to take us
Yeah.
on
I'm
down that
here,
road?
Mr. Chairman. So this is the same property, but this request is for commercial ag tourism use that includes wedding and small community events on the property and within an existing barn and pavilion. We know the specifics of the property. The narrative of the proposed business has been included in your packet. It would include 1 to 2 events per month, 4 to 6 weddings, 4 to 5 corporate events, 2 barn dances, 2 volunteer neighbor appreciations, and 2 events open to community a year, bringing the total to 12 to 15 events. Use is proposed to occur from May 1 to November 1, with hours of operation varied depending upon the event. Weddings would host 10 to 120 guests from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., with music off at 10:30. Events and weddings would be catered. There would also be catered alcohol at some of the events. There is parking available for 85 to 100 cars. The applicants want to use the 3,000 square foot portion of an existing 52 by 136 barn and a 14 by 28 gazebo pavilion. Both structures have been used currently for these uses, but neither have been permitted for public occupancy. As such, if approved, required engineering for those types of buildings will be needed, and the appropriate change in use permits with the building department. We did receive a response from Monticello Township. They had recommended the commission schedule a site inspection and required the applicant to reappear before the township for formal recommendation.
Okay.
No other formal written responses have been received.
All right. Anything you want to add to that?
Nothing other than to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to speak on that? If you want to have a seat again, this gentleman would like to speak.
I just have one question.
You have to come to the podium, give your name, and then,
Michael Weiss. I really just have one question. How is parking going to be handled on this? Because there is no parking on 106.
correct. When, no. On any conditional use permits or any outdoor tourism things, we do not allow any parking on any roads or streets or anything like that. So they would have to have parking on their property, and that would be part of the conditional use permit for coming up.
Okay.
So, no, there will not be any parking allowed on the county road.
All right.
And we always make sure that is in our
They've made
conditions.
provisions then for having enough room for parking.
They have to have enough provisions within it for parking, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Is there anyone else from the public? Gentlemen there in the back, please, if you'd come forward and state your name, please.
Chris Northensgold, Monticello. So I just had a question, or I guess a couple of questions here. How long is the permit good for if it's issued for the conditional use or for the, interim use?
Barry, do you want to take that?
Generally, the condition is that it expires at transfer, change business, and transfer business ownership or operation.
Okay. All right, so it's not due for re-up at a certain time if, okay.
As long as they're following the conditions that are laid out, and generally, we also condition these on township review on a certain period of time. Usually starts off with after the first year, and then at an interval requested by the township after that. So
Okay.
what I've commonly seen is, okay, the first year that goes by, they're operating fine. They might go another 1 year. After that, they might go to every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And those responses or those reviews do include, well, if there's violations of conditions, they could request that the planning commission reopen it.
All right. So my property butts up to the north side of theirs. I guess my other concern would be noise. What are the restrictions for outdoor speakers for weddings, outdoor events? Are there certain restrictions that are placed if the permit is issued?
Many times there is,
Okay.
non-amplified, or if it is amplified, it has to be shut off. It can only run from a certain time to a certain time.
Okay,
I mean, yes, this board has the leeway to set those parameters.
okay. Yeah, I mean, and I don't think 10:30 on a Saturday night is unreasonable at a certain level, I guess. Drunk drivers. So if we're gonna be hosting events there and there's alcohol served, I have kids that are gonna be driving here soon. That's kind of a concern of mine, also having a concentration of people leaving a venue potentially intoxicated at 11 o'clock at night in the country. What's going to be done to address this?
Wright County Sheriff, this board doesn't have control over those things. I mean, once they get onto the street and get behind the wheel, then it comes to the Wright County Sheriff.
But they can serve alcohol at the events at their discretion, basically.
No, they'd have to be permitted.
Okay,
So I'm assuming they'd have to have licenses and permits for that event
okay,
issued to them. And this
Okay.
board does not do that.
okay. But that's a by event permit that's issued for alcohol.
Normally
It wouldn't be a per event, it'd be per venue.
Per venue?
Per venue. So if the venue is granted, so, and there's different levels. So a lot of times they'll cater in alcohol where the actual venue doesn't have to hold an alcohol license themselves, but the vendor does.
Okay,
And so, there again, the commission would allow alcohol sales on the property, and then they're responsible to make sure either they have the sales license or the vendor that they hire has a sales license.
okay,
And many times it's dictated to by your homeowner's insurance. I mean, they wouldn't want to put their property, risk losing their property, so that's why a lot of places have, the vendor come in with a license. They're trained, to identify if people have been drinking too much, then not over-serving.
yeah,
So there's a lot of things in place.
okay. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not an issue now, but it's something that is a concern along with the noise. So, all right, I just want to make sure there's something in place for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Mr. Northensko? I think if I read the file right, there were a couple of events out there already. And I'm wondering whether, you live out there now?
Yes.
Whether you've experienced any noise to speak of from that site? If you haven't, fine. If you have, curious to hear about it.
I have, yes, and, in receiving the letter, I've spoken with 10 people that abut the area that's affecting this, basically outside of your crosshatched area on the letter that you sent out for this. And the number one concern that out of the people I talked to, 8 of them had issues with the noise. But they didn't, and I get it, they don't want to confront, or they don't want to be they don't want to be a problem. Obviously, we want to be neighborly, but that is a concern.
Well, yeah, and I'm not so much concerned about that, right? If the neighbors don't want to come here and tell us their experience about noise, they don't have to. I'm more curious from you, when was the noise? Was it at an inappropriate time? Did you think it was at an inappropriate volume? Or was it middle of a day on a Saturday and you could hear there was an event going on?
Middle of the day on a Saturday, and I could hear there was an event going on.
Okay.
So that's why it isn't an issue in the middle of the day on a Saturday. I'm more concerned thinking, if I'm sitting around my fire on a Saturday night, am I going to be hearing, Thriller in the background or something? So
You should be so lucky, but.
Yeah.
No, I
But,
get that, that's how
so,
I was,
yeah.
I wanted to have,
It does kind of carry, it is on a hill, we're also on a hill. And I mean, speakers are directional, so yeah, that was just my main concern of, you know, just making sure that it doesn't impact us too much with that, so.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment? If not, we'll bring it back up here to the board. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? How does the board want to proceed?
Chairman, well, per the township, I think a site visit would be in order.
Okay,
So we can check that out. I don't know, would we close public comment now, or do we come back?
that's.
No, you would leave
I
public
would say
comment
no.
open until,
Leave it open.
Leave it open? Okay.
So are you making that a motion?
I'll make that motion, that we do a site visit.
Do
I'll
we have-
second that.
Second, we've got a motion made and seconded to do a site inspection.
a little bit of discussion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Gary?
You know, looking through their plans a little closer, I do not see a detailed parking plan. Maybe we, in that interim with the continuation, have a detailed parking plan submitted by, let's say, January 7th, with number of vehicles and dimensions of the parking area, because the plan as we see here doesn't have any actual detailed parking plans.
Okay. Is that something the applicant can do? Okay.
And just submit that to Josh.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
include that in your motion.
I'll include that in my motion.
Okay.
Who seconded that?
What? Did you second that? I know I had a second.
I thought it came from down there. But I'll second it if you need one.
All right.
I thought it came from down that way.
Did you?
I
Yeah,
did.
okay. Pat
I
seconded, yeah, okay.
did.
Oh, yeah,
I
you
forgot
did.
already that I had seconded it, sorry. You can have it, Ken, if you want it.
No,
Not
you've got it, Pat, you've got it.
very possessive about that, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion to continue it and do a site inspection, and also for the applicant to submit a parking plan by the 7th of January. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. All- Yeah, it's early. All right, that's the last thing on our agenda. So that means we need to set a site inspection before January 16th. What does people's calendars look like? And when do we want to do a site inspection? The township board's meeting was when, Barry?
I believe they meet the first and third Mondays.
So January 6th?
So they'd be meeting on the 6th, so we'd have to do a site inspection, say on the 3rd of,
Thursday, the 2nd?
They're not gonna do the meeting on the 16th. If they're the first and third Mondays, they'll have a meeting next Monday.
The 13th.
No, next Monday's the 16th.
16th, they have a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
But they would have a meeting, January, 6th and 20th.
And when's our planning meeting?
Fifth,
the
16th.
16th.
Oh, yeah, that's a holiday.
Oh, we
It'd be
got
21st.
2 weeks there.
But it would be nice to be able to have the site inspection before that meeting on the
Before the
6th, so that
6th.
they
I
can make a
agree.
decision.
I agree.
So whether we've got to do it at the end of December or the 2nd or 3rd of January.
I think the 2nd would be, I don't know.
January's better for me.
Me too. It just is crazy.
January 2nd,
Yeah, does January 2nd in the morning work?
Pat, does that work potential?
Sure.
It's a new year. You
Ken?
never know. You might not be busy.
Think so.
See.
That's Thursday morning?
Thursday morning,
Thursday morning?
January 2nd, we'd like to come out and do a site inspection.
Sure.
Or we will be. We'll leave here at 8:30 a.m., so it'll probably be whatever it takes to drive here. to your
8:45
place,
at
15
site.
minutes.
8:45 at the site.
8:45 will be to your place, and if you can have, kind of the parking, depends how much snow we get or what the winter brings, but so that,
I'll meet
We
you
have an
by the
idea?
barn.
Okay,
Lots of parking.
yeah.
Get the van up
But
the hill.
if you can kind of have it laid out and then show us what you're planning for the recreational, where the music will be, what buildings you'll be using, you know,
Sure.
all of that kind of stuff, the layout and what you're thinking. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have anything else before the board other than, we've got a card here for Janice, and Janice, I want to thank you for your service. It's been a pleasure to serve with you on the board, and I think you and I started out about the same time, so
You did?
I
How
guess
many years?
12.
Oh, my.
it's,
12 years I've been on this board.
Little over 11, 2013, I think what I saw on the information was February 15th of 2013, or February 5th of
So
2013.
I would like to pay you.
Oh, this is nice. And I'm so glad that I got to make my last motion for you and your horse business. I'm a horse lover too.
and here is also a card that we have signed.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you for your service.
And I would like to thank everybody on this commission for making my life so much more interesting and so much more rewarding. I've enjoyed every minute of serving on this board with all of these people. And I can tell you that this fellow that's sitting there with the glasses on, with the suit on, is just the wonderful, wonderful attorney. And this guy in the blue shirt there is rather new to me, but he's a wonderful, wonderful guy too. And so I love you all, and I'll miss you, but it's time for everybody to go out to pasture, and I guess it's my turn. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. Do you want to make the final?
I'll make the final motion. I will make the motion that we now adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn, and we are done. Thank you.
Thank you.